Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Black Queer Unapologetic. I'm JoJo. And before we get started today, I wanted to thank you for listening. In the past few episodes, the feedback that I've received has been great. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Instagram at black.queerunapologetic for any updates and polls regarding upcoming episodes and topics. And I just wanted to leave that little message here before we got started. So let's get into today's episode.
Hey, black, queer, unapologetic. Black, queer, unapologetic. I know who I am, now you know what I'm about. I say the thoughts in my head out loud. Let's get into it, let's pick up the flow though. Brought to you by the one they call JoJo. Black, queer, unapologetic. Black, queer, unapologetic. Let's go.
Okay, so today I wanted to talk about business ownership and the intersectionality between owning a business and being a queer person of color while owning a business. I know the idea can be intimidating, whether you had the thought on your mind of starting a business or you just haven't gotten around to it yet or you don't know where to start. And I felt like it'd be helpful for other people to hear from somebody who's gone through this journey and this process and started their own business. So today I have an inspiring guest who also happens to be my friend, who really embodies what this podcast is all about: being bold, being Black, being queer, and building something extraordinary in their community. Our guest today is Dr. Christopher Nizer, a chiropractor and business owner in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited for this conversation. Hello.
Hi, Jojo. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Just got my coffee, get my day started.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for doing this because I feel like we've been friends for a while and I haven't actually really gotten your story of how you became a chiropractor and how that's something that you decided that you wanted to do. So I get to know you better, and then we also get to have this conversation, and so I'm really excited about that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, me too. It's been a long journey, especially kind of my professional journey. So I'm excited to share it with you a little bit more and kind of the ups and downs and the good and bad and all that in between.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So let's start with your journey to deciding that that's what you wanted to do. Like, at what point did you decide that you wanted to be a chiropractor, and how did that journey start to progress?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a unicorn in that I'm one of those people who knew at a very young age what I was going to do with my life. I think it was probably about 17 years old when I found out what chiropractic was. And I guess I should start by saying when I was in high school, I had this like kind of need and desire to help people. And the medical field seemed like a pretty strong possibility for me. Unfortunately, I didn't really love kind of traditional medicine. I didn't like the ideas of being healthy through, just medication or surgery. I really like the idea of health and more like natural health. And so I had this draw towards healthcare, but also this kind of pushback due to kind of the traditional medical system that we have. And I remember going to a chiropractor's office in my hometown to shadow for a couple days a week. And I was floored that there was something that I was looking for, a way that I could help people that was a little bit more holistic and didn't require having to prescribe people or even have the stress of prescribing people medication. The opioid epidemic was very high at that time, especially in the region that I grew up in. And so I could see it all around me, people getting addicted to painkillers and things like that in order just to get through the day. So when I went to the chiropractic office, I was just like, wow, like why are more people not addressing their health in a more natural way and holistic way? And it was just, I was hooked at that point.
And you did this at 17?
17 years old. Yeah. 17 and 18. Yeah.
Okay.
I know most people take some years to figure it out, but Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid and kept drinking.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then, so where did you go to school? Like you graduated from high school and then you
Right.
went to do undergrad?
Yeah. So I went to undergrad. I did 4 years of undergrad at Miami University, which is ironically not in Florida. It's a small school in Ohio.
Okay.
Um, and it was kind of my dream school. I had visited there, and actually, an upperclassman in high school, a guy that I looked up to, who also was going into the medical field, told me about it when he went to visit, and I got really interested. Anyway, went to that school, did 4 years of undergrad there, and I actually started off pre-med to leave the the door open to going to medical school if I wanted to do that as opposed to chiropractic school.
Uh-huh.
And I really liked the sciences, but it still just never resonated with me to go the more traditional medical route. So I finished with a degree in exercise physiology
Okay.
from my university. Um, After undergrad for chiropractors, we have 3.5 year chiropractic program. So it's very similar to med school.
Okay.
Have
Sure.
we have cadaver courses, so we're dealing with the body inside and out.
Uh-huh.
We have internships that we have to do as well throughout our coursework, and we have national board exams that we have to finish in order to be able to be licensed.
Okay. And at any point when you were going through undergrad or like when you started chiropractor school, did you think like maybe I want to do something else, or were you pretty motivated and consistent with wanting to continue to that journey of being a chiropractor?
Yeah, I think there was a moment my junior year in undergrad where I was a little bored with the studies. But again, this was while I was in undergrad, and I knew that I wasn't working towards my full degree yet. I wasn't working towards my profession. A lot of my classmates were in the field that they were going to be doing as soon as we graduated
Got
within
it.
a year and a half, right? Yeah. So it was really confusing that I was like, the stuff I'm studying is like very basic and it's not what I want to be doing. But I had to remind myself that it's also was not what I was going to be doing. So I had to kind of muscle through that in order to get to chiropractic school. Once I got to chiropractic school, it was great because everything we did was more about, okay, this is one more step closer to what I want to be doing, how I'm going to be helping people and serving people, knowing more about the body so that I can be better at what I do. Um, it was a lot easier once I got to that point, but that
Uh,
was the only time that I kind of faltered.
okay. And so you graduated from Miami University,
Yeah.
uh, in Ohio, not Florida.
Right.
And then you, at what point did you apply to chiropractic school? And then where did you go and how did that go?
Yeah. So my chiropractor that I worked for back in high school and like I would come home for holidays and would just work in the practice, just doing little things that I could at that point. Obviously, I didn't have any training, but even if it was just signing people in, taking money, just having that experience of being at a chiropractic office. Um, that particular chiropractor was hell bent on me going to to his school because it is one of the better chiropractic schools. I would have gone to it anyway, and it's just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in Marietta.
Okay.
So I applied for school. I took a year off in between undergrad and chiropractic school, all the while knowing that I wanted to go to chiropractic school. It was just kind of a gap year to relax and not study before I went into another almost 4 years of study.
Uh,
Um, so I chose to go to Life University in Marietta, Georgia, which was honestly a really important decision for me to be in that neck of the woods. Atlanta was a really pivotal time for me as a chiropractor,
mhm.
as a queer person, and as a Black.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so I'm really grateful for my time there, especially coming from a school like Miami University, where all those things that I just mentioned, being a chiropractor, being wanting to be a chiropractor, being a Black man and being a queer man were probably not the safest. It wasn't the safest place to be.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I guess I'll just start by talking about the differences between the two schools. Miami University was at the time when I went to school there predominantly white university. The running joke was, and probably still is, that there are more women named Katie on campus than there are Black people.
Wow.
And you can literally insert any white girl name in there: Sarah, Katie, you know, whatever. And that was the case. It really was. So there weren't a lot of people who looked like me there. Um, and I had my first gay, experience at Miami University. So it was kind of the start of me coming out to some
Uh-huh.
people, but I had other friends who were coming out at that time, and it just, it didn't seem like the safest place to be. The university is also filled with fraternities and sororities. Like, that's the thing to do there. A lot of schools, like,
Yeah.
it's not really cool to be in a fraternity, but at Miami University, everyone was in a fraternity or a sorority. So, just with that culture, coming out was not easy, in the early 2000s to do so.
Right. I feel like that's like one of the things that you see in a lot of media back then is like, maybe like a scary movie or I don't know, like something that you see on TV, like a TV show. A lot of people are in sororities. It's like that's the image that they kind of curated around college culture is that people were in fraternities and sororities and,
That's
there
right.
was certain behavior associated with that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of it is true. Like what you see on TV, whether the TV influenced the reality or the reality is a product of what we see on TV. It's there, and it's a little scary, especially when you have like intersecting identities that don't really fit the mold of your surrounding.
Uh-huh.
So I had a good experience in undergrad, but it wasn't great. Just internally,
Okay.
I I dealt with a lot and kind of hit a lot. Both my Blackness and my queerness, and even wanting to be a chiropractor. I was the only person in kind of my cohort, um, especially while being pre-med, that was thinking about becoming a chiropractor, and it was actually looked down upon, amongst people who wanted to become surgeons and
Really?
pediatricians and whatever else. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They
Why?
were like, not real health. That's not real. And I was like, it's different just because I'm not pushing pills down people's throats. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not bashing any sort of profession. But I don't want anybody bashing mine either.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot that I kind of fought through in undergrad, for those reasons.
Uh-huh.
And moving to Atlanta, it was night and day different.
I wonder why.
Yeah, right. But Atlanta, gosh, what a great place! What a great place to be Black. It really is. To be any person of color, it's a really open and accepting place for people of color to achieve their goals, to have the same ambitions as our white counterparts, without having to fear anything. So yeah, that was the first time that I felt like I was in a community that kind of celebrated my Blackness, and I also was surrounded by that celebrated Blackness. Um, as you can imagine, Ohio doesn't have a lot of that to offer. That part of Ohio.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, Atlanta. Immediately when I moved there, I could feel the change that would take place. Also along the lines of just feeling comfortable I'm now at a school, at a university where everyone's aspiring to have the same profession as me. So that
Yeah.
was really good to be amongst people who were like-minded and had the same goals. And yeah, I did most of my coming out was in Atlanta. Like that's when I started really accepting myself, um, and leaning into myself and exploring my queerness, and being able to do so in a space that felt welcoming was really, really nice. So I have a lot of respect for my time in Atlanta. Have you been to Atlanta, Jojo?
I've only been one time, and I was only there for 2 days.
Oh, you have to go. I mean, so I'll give you a little, a little less professional understanding of my time in Atlanta. So when I first moved there, I was in school, but I was working nights at a restaurant, at an Italian restaurant,
Mhm.
and I met this guy who I thought was really great, black guy. Uh, I kind of had a crush on him. Not gonna lie.
Oh.
I don't really think he had a crush on me back, but he's like, yeah, like I'll take you out. He's like, you haven't been out in Atlanta. I was like, no, like I don't even know where to go. He was like, all right, here's what we'll do. I'll come over to your house after work. I'll get ready there because it just made more sense for him to come to me because I lived really close to the restaurant.
Mhm.
I finished work first. After his shift, he came over, just got ready at my house. To my dismay, nothing happened, but
Okay.
we got ready. And, I'm probably, I'm in my early 20s, 23, something like that.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting around drinking, getting ready to like take a taxi. Yes, a taxi because there were no Ubers at that point.
Yeah, a lot of people will not remember that taxis
Yeah,
are big.
literally called Yellow Cab.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, so we're waiting, and it's like 9 o'clock, and then it's 10 o'clock, and I'm like, yeah, like should we head down? And he's like, yeah, no, that's way too early. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. 11 o'clock rolls around. Now it's like almost midnight. I'm like, hey, it's getting kind of late. Do you like is the party still going on? He was like, yeah, we can go down now. So we get
Wait,
there.
was this a club or was this a house party?
No, it was a club. I called it a party because, I was foolish.
Right.
Um,
You're new in the area.
I was new in the area. I had never, ever been to like a real club. Like we had little clubs in Pittsburgh that I would go to that were like 18 and over
Mhm.
when I was in high school, but nothing like this, right? So anyway, he takes me downtown and we go to this club that's like in a basement. If there were a fire, it would not have been good.
Oh my god.
But it was the first time that I had gone to a club, arriving at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I
Mhm.
get there and it's nothing but like beautiful gay black men just like living their lives, listening to the best like hip hop music possible.
Uh-huh.
I was so overwhelmed in such a positive way. Um, but yeah, I had a blast.
Uh-huh.
It also was the first time that I ever walked out of a building and the sun was up. uh,
Okay,
yeah.
you're gonna have to shed some light on this for me because I know every state is very different in
Uh-huh.
regard, and maybe there was some changes at some point or whatever. Because I'm a California boy, so I am used to things closing at 2.
Exactly.
I'm used to like the after party we had at somebody's house,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So in Atlanta, do they close later? Like, is it like an underground scene? Like, how
Yeah.
does that work?
So I think in Atlanta, if I remember correctly, I do think things close later. I think things stayed open till 4, maybe.
That's nice.
But this was an underground situation.
Okay.
Well, sure. I came up for air at 6 a.m. And I remember being a zombie. And listen, when I came up by myself. That friend from work was still there. Most people were still there. And I was like, I got to get out of here. But it was really, really fun. And just like knowing that that was an option. I don't know that it ever did that again, but to that extent. Um, but it was just really good introduction
Uh-huh.
into a life that I'd always wanted and that I,
Then-
had inside me. I just didn't feel like I had a community to which to express it. So yeah, that's kind of me loving on Atlanta a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I did nearly 4 years there. Had a great time. Got my chiropractic degree, and yeah, then I started working, started my profession.
Okay. And so you graduated. Did you move? Did you stay in Atlanta for a little while, or did you move somewhere else?
Yeah, so this is this is where things in my life get a little adventurous, I should say. Yeah, so
Okay.
I interned, like I said, we have an internship that we do kind of in our last part of schooling, and I
Okay.
had a really, really great internship with these two chiropractors, male chiropractors in like the greater Atlanta area. And I really loved it there and I could see myself working there, but their practice was just small for two
Okay.
chiropractors, let alone three. And I stayed with them for a bit, but they couldn't offer me what I wanted or needed at that point.
Uh-huh.
So I started just looking around. They knew I was looking for other opportunities, and I've always had an, a an itch to travel,
Okay.
but I hadn't traveled much up to that point because I was just schooling my whole life. There was
Yeah.
really no time to do that.
Okay.
Like academics were everything for me. So this opportunity kind of landed at my feet where one of my classmates who I graduated with had done his internship with an American company, but the practices were in Peru.
Huh.
And he sent an email out to a group of our friends just saying, hey, you guys may know that I did my internship here in Peru. Decided to stay on and I'm working. We're also looking for another chiropractor as one of our other chiropractors is moving on.
Uh-huh.
If you're interested, reach out to this email address. And I just said, you know what? I'll bite. I'll see what this is about. So I sent an email to this contact, and about 3.5 weeks later, I was living in Peru.
And did you speak any Spanish at that point?
No, I had Spanish in high school. I'll say this: I was good at high school Spanish. I was very good. I
Don't we
was
all
so
think we're good in high school Spanish when we're in high school Spanish?
exactly. We were all good. But I was so good that I tested out of having to take a language in undergrad because you could take
Oh,
these tests just to see where you're at, and I tested out of it.
so you were good then.
Yeah, but I didn't use it for 12 years after that. So I knew some things. I could get to the bathroom or order a drink. Um, but no, I didn't speak conversational Spanish when I got there. So the company was really good in that they set us up with translators and things like that. But I really wanted to learn quickly. So
Yeah.
after about 6 weeks with my translator, I asked them um, to let her go, like let her help somebody else so that I
Uh-huh.
could do it on my own.
Okay.
And that was probably the best thing I could have done. I struggled, but I learned Spanish so much faster by
Uh-huh.
not being under that crutch.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, you have to like throw yourself into it. Um, and another thing that I did that was really helpful was we were all the chiropractors who were mostly from the United States or Canada or other English speaking areas. We were all like in a home together. So we'd come back from work and we'd hang out and speak English and watch TV in English. So
Uh-huh.
we weren't really immersed in it. So I decided to move out of that house pretty quickly and move in with a Peruvian roommate so
Okay.
that we just speak Spanish. And again, that was super beneficial to just like be able to make friends and speak conversationally outside of work. I mean, the work thing came pretty quickly because that's all I did was
Uh-huh.
work. So I could speak chiropractically pretty well, but to like go up and talk to someone and make a friend, I was terrified until I moved in with a roommate and started hanging out with him,
Yeah.
his friends. Yeah. Um, Yeah, so I did that for it was supposed to be a year commitment, and I
Uh-huh.
enjoyed it so much that I stayed for just shy of 3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a life-changing experience. Like, I got to travel, got to do the traveling that I had always wanted to do, both in Peru and throughout South America.
Uh-huh.
Met a lot of great people and ate a lot of really good food.
I haven't had breakfast today, so I'm just like, damn.
The food was so good in Peru, but yeah. And then I moved back to the States and moved to the Bay, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'm a Bay native. I met you in, I want to say 20. Well, I knew who you were, but like we weren't really friends until
Right.
2017.
Right. Yeah. We had like
Um,
mutual friends and knew of each other. Yeah.
yeah.
17, we were.
And before you, I had never met a black chiropractor before in my life.
Right. Right.
So, moving to the Bay Area, like how was that a culture shift? Because I feel like it's probably not like Pittsburgh. It's probably not like Ohio. It's probably not like Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so like how was that shift for you, personally and like professionally?
Yeah. Um, it's this community thing, right? Like, that I think I'm always kind of chasing. And yeah, I think just as marginalized people, like we're always looking for community, right? And coming back to the States, I mean, Peru was a beautiful community. They accepted me um, with open arms, and so I found that there, and I'm very grateful for it. Moving back to the States, I remember having flying into SFO for the first time because I flew straight here from Peru, and I was culture shocked in my own culture.
Why?
There were so many white places, and it threw me off because like I just wasn't used to seeing that, and um, yeah, it shook me a little bit coming back. I remember kind of breathing heavily, like, oh my gosh, like I gotta find my community again, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like moving to Atlanta where it just felt like, this, it's here. I know it's here. I can see it around me. Like, I don't know the people yet, but I know that they're all here and they're waiting for me, and I just got to find the right ones.
Right.
This is like, where are they? Right.
Mhm.
Are they here? So, um, the Bay Area has been really, really good to me. But to be honest with you, I did have those thoughts like, oh, this is not like Atlanta.
Yeah.
My other option was to move back to Atlanta, and that obviously felt really safe.
Uh-huh.
It's not necessarily where I wanted to be at that point, so I'm glad that I made the choice that I did to not just do the safe thing.
Uh-huh.
But uh, I was fortunate to have some friends who were already here from that school in Ohio.
Okay.
So yeah, and they fit the mold of that school in Ohio, but at least
Were any of them named Katie?
yes,
Oh.
there are like 2 named Katie and 3 named Sarah. So, so that was comforting as well. But I still needed to find my people. And like you said, you and I met and like really met and hung out and became friends in 2017. And I
Uh-huh.
moved to the Bay in 2013. And
Mhm.
I really do think, not taking away from my friends that are, I had already here.
Uh-huh.
They're lovely people and wonderful humans. But again, like they were my Ohio people. Like they were good for me then, at that point, and I needed to find the people who are going to be my community now here,
Uh-huh.
especially after discovering myself as a Black man, as a professional, as a queer man, after all of those years since Ohio.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, I moved here in 2013 and didn't meet you and the rest of our group of friends until 2017. So it took I always think of it as like that's how long it took for me to find my community. Um, you and the other 5,
Wait.
that we have in our little friend group.
Uh-huh.
Uh, you guys, I think we all feel the same way that it was a pivotal time for all of us to find each other and,
Yeah.
to lean on each other and our queerness and our blackness, to, help bounce off ideas professionally. Like we've had so many conversations between the six of us
Yeah.
about work and maneuvering through as queer people of color. So
Everything.
yeah, the Bay took a little bit of time for me to find that place, but there was a lot that pulled me here, and I knew that it was the right place. And then 2017 and since then has been just justification that I made the right decision.
Hmm. Okay. So when you moved here, you already had the job offer and everything?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
I had one interview, Skype interview. Zoom was not a thing then. I had a Skype interview from Peru
Okay.
and I had a phone interview, then a Skype interview, and then I flew here for an in-person interview. I basically spent the whole day in the office, um,
Okay.
in San Francisco. And I'm not gonna
Well,
lie,
yeah, I forgot you used to
yeah,
work in San Francisco before. I forgot about that.
yeah, I
Mhm.
had my first job in the Bay was working in an office in Fisherman's Wharf. Yeah, right in the center of tourist.
So yeah, tourist town.
It was not it's not the greatest place for a chiropractic office, but I did my interview there, my in person, and she asked me if she offered me the job fully, and I asked for a day to think about it, and I actually took 2 days because there was just something that didn't feel quite right about it, and I finally accepted. But I was only in that office for about 3 months
Okay.
before deciding to leave because it wasn't a fit. Um, there were a few comments made. We're talking about like never meeting a black chiropractor. There aren't a lot of them.
Yeah.
When I thought about moving back to Atlanta, like there are black chiropractors in Atlanta everywhere. Like
Mhm.
my classmates, I was not in such a minority when I was in chiropractic school, and that felt really good. And some of my closest friends who practice in Atlanta are black chiropractors.
Right.
Um, but holistically, we are very much a minority in the chiropractic profession, and definitely so in the Bay Area. I know one other black chiropractor. I did know two, but one has since left the Bay Area.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, it's a little scary. And when I was at that office, there were just certain things that um, just rubbed me the wrong way. Like the owner of that practice, she was very particular about how I dressed and how my facial hair was. Like,
I am gritting my teeth right now because I'm just like those are just like even just like the fact that you just went to clothes and hair, like those are
yep, clothes and hair
I was like,
immediately. I was like,
continue.
yeah, yes, and it was really off-putting. She just didn't. She wasn't and don't get me wrong. Like I know how to be professional. I know how to dress. Like I
Yeah.
I, I love my profession. I always want to be the most professional presenting person that I can be. The issue was that she was in this practice management program that helped her run her practice successfully. However, this program was built by, and in my opinion, for white chiropractors, more specifically, white male chiropractors. So the look had to be a certain way that, you know, certain types of people think are professional. Hair has to be a certain way. I mean, some of the suggestions didn't even match, my physical self. Like I couldn't wear my hair the way that they wanted me to wear my hair because my hair doesn't move that way, right? Uh,
Right.
yeah, so this was like the my first time really dealing with an issue of being a chiropractor and black. Um, and and it was really off-putting. I mean, that's not the only reason why I left that practice. There was just some, differences in philosophies, but
Okay.
it didn't help the situation when I would be pulled aside, not because I wasn't treating patients correctly or I wasn't following procedures, but because of the way I was dressing or the way that I shaved that day. It just felt really wrong. Um, because are we really doing this, in this day and age where someone shows up in a very professional way, ready to do a job, and because it's not to your standards of what doctor or chiropractor should look like, then they're not going to be good at it, or they're going to represent you in a bad way. So um, that was really pivotal in my career, and I got out of there pretty quickly. I left that job without having secured the next job, but it was that
Uh,
important to me to because I was so unhappy in those 3 months of being there that I needed to get out of there.
well, I mean, respect to you for doing that, because some people just sit there and stick it out and, you know, I don't want to say torture themselves because it's not their fault, but they don't recognize when they're not wanted or appreciated or are being forced to conform to something that they can't fit into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. And with me being, I'm very passionate about my job and my work, and I had basically just left Peru for my dream job, excuse me. And coming into this, I was like, there's no way that I'm gonna let this place or this person kind of dim the shine of what I love so much, which is my work. So I had to leave, and I would recommend that anybody does that. Deal with what you can, but you shouldn't be made to do things, be a certain way in order to keep a job or be happy in a job. Um,
Don't know.
so so yeah, that was my decision, and it brought me to where I am today. I found through another coworker at that office. She let me know about a practice that was looking to hire a chiropractor in the East Bay in El Cerrito. Um, and I looked them up, got a hold of them, did an interview, kind of fell in love with the practice and the owners and the philosophy around their practice. And I started working there. Um, it was a husband and wife, both of which are chiropractors who had been working already for like 35 years. So they were
Okay.
very close to retirement anyhow. Um, I practiced with them. There was a lot more freedom and me being myself as a chiropractor within their practice. They valued the experience that I already had, both from that previous job and my time in Peru. And yeah, it led to them retiring and me buying the practice and becoming not only a chiropractor there, but the owner of the practice.
Was that something that was on your mind at any point before that, that you wanted to own your own chiropractor practice, or was it something like an opportunity presented itself?
For me, it has always been the goal is
Okay.
to not just be in an office working for someone. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are lots of different ways that people want to practice. I've got friends who never want to own their own practice. They just want to do what they love doing and let somebody else take care of the rest.
Uh,
Um, I think entrepreneurship has also kind of runs through my veins a little bit. Um, Again, the chiropractors that I had a lot of experience with throughout my studies and just experience, they had all been chiropractic owners. So yeah, it's something that I've always wanted, and working for this couple leading up to me taking over the practice, there was a lot of times where I was just like, I can't keep working for someone. I need you guys to retire already. Uh,
yeah.
and I kind of feel that way. I don't think I could ever work for someone again.
Uh-huh.
there are pros and cons. It's a lot of responsibility. There are a lot of people who you're taking care of, not just from a chiropractic standpoint, but now you have to worry about your staff.
Right.
You have to worry about equipment working and not working. You have to worry about liabilities, insurances.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot that goes into being a business owner, specifically a small business owner, and doing it on your own. But for me, it's worth it. And like I said, it has always been the goal for me.
Okay. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who have like thrown out ideas of like wanting to start a business, and either they just don't know where to start or that kind of thing, or they're just too nervous to do it. So I remember going to your opening,
Yep.
and everybody was like really proud of you and excited for you. But I can't, well, I guess I can't imagine that if you were to start your own business, there are some of those challenges, maybe things that you haven't had to deal with, some of that you just listed already about like insurances and staff and things like that. What were some of the early challenges that you faced when you took over the practice and became the business owner?
Yeah. There's always something, right? It's
Yeah.
My motto is it's never a problem till it's a problem. But some of the challenges are for me because I was, instead of just starting a business from scratch, I was taking over a business. There were those patients who were looking at me, even though I'd been there for numerous years as an employee. They were like, "Oh, well, I'm not going to continue, right? I just want to see who I see." Or, I've had people who looked at me as if because I worked with older chiropractors that I was too young. Um, you know, I don't think it was as bad as I was expecting. The idea that I was also a black chiropractor, although I definitely felt that from a lot of people. So there are hiccups that are going to come up. There are, little things that you don't know as far as kind of the technicalities of running a business. Um, what I what I did was I just leached off of anyone around me that I could. In my case, a lot of it was the previous owners before they retired. I just took in everything. I was just writing things down. I was looking at what they were doing. I actually went to them and said, I need to see your books. I'm going to buy your practice and I need to see what the practice is making. I need to see, what the expenses are, what I need to expect. And I just highly recommend that if anyone who's looking to start a small business is just do as much research as you possibly can. Lean into people who are open to showing you the ins and outs. I was fortunate, the chiropractor back home, I learned a lot from them. There were two chiropractors that I kind of worked in between. And I learned a lot from them. A lot of what to do and things not to do, to be honest with you. But it's important. It's important I listen to my friends, I listen to you guys talk about business things that may not be fully relatable on a small business to kind of more corporate level, but a lot of it is business, right? So I took things from Peru, because Peru, while I was there, I got to see a lot of new clinics in our company open up, and I could kind of see how things were implemented, procedures were placed. So it's really important to kind of be a sponge and not to let those things that are happening around you just kind of go by the wayside, because you can learn from everything. And I tried to really hold on to those experiences and implement them, because I saw where it worked and I saw the things that didn't work. And once I took over the practice, I said, okay, I've got my list of do's and don't do's. And it made it a lot easier. But you need to also be able to ask for help, which is something that I struggle with.
Yeah. I think a lot of us do, because it's like one of those things where it's like, I can do it myself. I know what I'm doing, but it's not even about that. It's probably about like, yeah, you know what you're doing, but also like people are willing to help you. So you probably could accept the help if you really were a little bit more. I mean, at least that's my advice to myself, like be a little bit more humble.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Because it is hard for us to do, I think, especially if you've got these intersecting identities that you've had to face a lot of them on your own. We've had to figure out a lot of things by ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's something that a parent can't really relate to in order to help us with, or a sibling or a boss, whatever it may be, we've had to figure a lot out on our own.
Uh-huh.
So we sometimes protect that a little too much. I say we, I'm talking about myself right
I mean, I get what you're saying because I think I probably said this in the episode, but I think that growing up, I mean, as being a black man, my dad has been very specific about me like trying harder, being better, and not giving anybody an excuse to see me as lesser than or not good enough. You know, that kind of thing.
Right, right.
And so you do try harder and like, okay, well, if I accept the help, then maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, or maybe I'm not qualified enough, that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that like actually being able to know to identify the person that can help you and then reach out to that person, that is being a smart person.
Well,
That's not you being, you know, lesser than or not knowing what you're doing, because, you know, at least you know who to talk to and get that advice or that help from.
yeah, 100%. And I also think just from a black person's standpoint, I think we're always made to be seen as looking for handouts,
Yeah,
right?
I've heard that. And
Right.
yeah.
And that's something that always has kind of stood out in the back of my mind when I want or need to ask for help. Like, I don't want to seem needy, or I don't want to seem like I just want a handout, because that's what we've been kind of pigeonholed into, is that like we can't
Yeah.
get things unless we're getting handouts. It's like it's not handout as much as it is like an even playing field, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to in the moment let that go for me personally. So therefore, it makes it difficult for me to ask for help sometimes, and it is important to do in life in general. But definitely, when you're starting out as a small business owner, there's so many little things that you may not know. So asking for help is really important.
Uh, there's, you know, those jokes about queer people who like just have money all the time.
Yeah, right.
um,
Like that.
but I think it's also something to be said about that, where we just try harder, because if we don't, like, people will find a reason to take things from us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're constantly trying to protect what we do have, because
Okay.
um, it's constantly at risk of being taken away.
Yeah, for one reason or another.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And
I do want to talk about unexpected challenges.
Yeah.
So I know that you started your business, you were operating, and then COVID happened and the world shut down.
yes. Oh boy.
Ha-
Talk about
Of all of the businesses that you could have had, it's a medical one and also a small business, and then the world shuts down. So I'm curious, nobody could see that coming. And how did you navigate through that? And what did you learn from it?
Boy, that's a good one. Yeah, it was. So just to kind of give timeline, I bought the practice in April of 2019. And almost exactly a year later, the world shut down. So I had honestly, patting myself on the back, I had an excellent first year in practice. It was such
Okay.
a fun time. In my practice, we did really well, helped a lot of people. And yeah, financially it was a really lucrative year. And then the pandemic happened, and it was really scary. I had a lot of really great friends reaching out to me, being like, just checking in, asking how I'm doing. We were deemed essential because we're medical, so I was able to work. But with that, there's a global pandemic that is killing people left and right. So it was really scary for a number of reasons. Financially, it was terrifying. My practice, even though we were essential, people were, playing it safe and staying home, which they should have. Um, so the first few months, I would say probably 2.5 months of the pandemic, I was only working 3 days a week for 4 hours each day. Mostly to just be on the safe side of things, but also that's all that my practice was really producing. That was the need that was there at the time.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that's not a lot of revenue to sustain a business. Again, thankfully, that first year was a really, really good year financially. So always have reserves. You need to save for rainy days. This is exactly why this was a big lesson for me right away. But I had done that, thankfully. I had money put away, and it was able to, I knew I had enough money to last me about 3 to 4 months of not working at all. And, I was still paying assistants as best I could. They were coming in and working, my staff, I should say. I was paying them when they weren't there. I was paying them to work from home, just making phone calls to reschedule people because, it's their livelihood just as much as it is mine. So it got tough, and it got scary. And thankfully, as we got further into the pandemic and the shutdown, people did realize that chiropractic was, it was deemed, what's the word I'm looking for? That we were able to work, right?
Yeah.
And so people were realizing that, we were open. So more and more people started coming in. They started realizing that their lives, their new way of living was detrimental to their health and their spine. Working from home was really difficult for people. Working from a dining room table on a hard chair all day long.
Dining room table. I was on the floor.
Right? My brother and his family, my brother is a teacher, my sister-in-law is a teacher, and they have 3 kids all in school. They were spread out all over their house, working or teaching, like trying not to interrupt each other. Warm calls.
And sharing the Wi-Fi that didn't have enough bandwidth from one person.
Exactly right. So yeah, there were a lot of obstacles for people, and it affected their health. And I also think people just really needed an excuse to get out of their houses, and just feel good for a minute. So
let me just go get my crack real quick.
Yeah, 100%. Get away from these kids. And people would come in more and more. And so I was able to open up more hours and more hours. And, I played it as safely as I could. I was masked with N95s. We sanitized everything. We just really had good practices in our office. We have a HEPA filter in our building. And we were pretty, thankfully, successful. So much so that after, 6 months of the pandemic, I hired 2 chiropractors into the practice because we were starting to get that busy.
Oh, nice.
So it was a lot of fear in the beginning, and just kind of persevering through it and knowing that, where there's a will, there's a way, and just focusing on helping people as much as we could through it. And yeah, it was scary, but that has probably been, as you can imagine, the biggest obstacle I've had as a business owner and maybe a person in general.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if it was me, I'd be so stressed out. And I'm not saying that you weren't, but I feel like you handled it pretty well, at least from what I saw.
Yeah, I took a lot of deep breaths. I think it all hit me in a very different way. There was a lot going on at the beginning of the pandemic, as we know. It wasn't just, people dying due to this virus, but Black people
Mhm.
losing their lives all over the place.
Right.
So I think I was struck with so many things all at once that there was a part of me that became numb to certain things, but also helped me be more present in work. Um,
Mhm.
I was numb to the fact that it could have affected me negatively, as far from a business standpoint, because of all of the other things that were going on around me, and those things were the things that really affected me. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, like all of these things that were happening in the world alongside this global pandemic were so much bigger than what could have happened in my practice, um, or with me financially, that I had to put something away, and I chose to just trust the universe that my practice was going to be okay, and that my attention needed to be on other things.
Well, it sounds like you've been through a lot. Uh, to say the least, though. I mean, as far as like, I mean, you're still in business. I mean, that's more than a lot of other people can say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm grateful.
What?
I'm grateful because there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of businesses that are no longer with us. And for
Mhm.
me, being in such an infancy of my business and still being able to pull out, I am very grateful for that.
What advice would you give to an aspiring business owner that could be Black or queer or both?
Yeah. Um, the community piece, like I said, is really important. Find like-minded people. Um, find people who have done or are doing what you aspire to do, and learn from them, and ask for help from them as well, right? These are all the topics we've talked about so far in this podcast. And I really do feel like for me, that's what got me to where I am, is, from time to time putting my pride aside and asking for that help, but asking the right people, right?
Mhm.
Um, Creating a community of safety for yourself, and a community that supports you in not only what you want to do, but who you are as you're doing that, right? So for me, I had to find a community who supported me as a chiropractor, not only a chiropractor, but a Black queer chiropractor. Um,
Mhm.
and I've had people who support me as a chiropractor, but like, let's leave out that Black queer part, right? You have to have all,
Right.
right? Or like leave
Yeah.
out that queer part. Like, I don't want that. And it doesn't serve me. Um, and it doesn't serve my mission. So yeah, my greatest advice is find that community. It is there. It does sometimes take a little while to discover who those people are. But once you do discover who they are, they have nothing but hope and life to give you, right? And lean on them, ask for advice, and well, you'll do great.
Mhm. I love that. Um, but for you,
Yeah.
if you were to go back in time and tell yourself one thing before you started the practice,
Well,
what would it be?
well, that's a good question. Um, I would tell myself, if I went back in time, that sometimes it will feel lonely.
Mhm.
Sometimes it will feel like you're the only one who cares about this thing, and in this way. Um, but that's only because you haven't shown it to people.
Uh-huh.
You have to share it with people. And I made that mistake in the beginning where it was, this is my practice, this is my baby. And I felt really lonely in that.
Yeah.
Then I started sharing that responsibility and that feeling with my staff and even my patients, and it became our practice. And now I really do feel like I've created something with people, not just myself, that feels better than just saying I have my practice, right? It's not about just me. This was my vision and my dream, but I've always wanted to share it with people.
Uh-huh.
And I would tell myself to do that sooner, to share it, to invite people in, to let people own it and love it as much as I do. And yeah, I have a staff that I finally feel that way with. I have patients who, this feels like a second home to them when they come and they bring their family members and they feel comfortable. So, yeah, that's what I would tell myself is love what you do, but share it with the world immediately.
I fucking love that. Because people are going to judge you regardless of what you do. So you might as well just do what makes you happy and kind of fuck what everybody else has to say about it. That's why I started the podcast, because the first time that I did it, I was getting input from people like, oh, you should do it this way, you should do it that way, or why are you doing it, this way? And at the end of the day, it's like, it's my choice and what I'm building, and it was working for me. But sometimes that negativity or other people's opinions kind of get in your head, and it can kind of deter you from being successful in what you want to do and loving what you do.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, just to piggyback on that. You have to make it your own, right? This is your podcast, like you said, and you do want to share it with the world. And the people who want to embrace you and what you're trying to do and the stories you're trying to tell, they will jump on board, right? So you don't need to change anything, right? It's one thing to give advice. It's another thing to try to tell someone how to take their passion and make it something that is for them, not for you, right? So it's your passion. This is for you. The people who also are here for that are going to jump on it. So it's not saying that you need to listen to everybody else in order to bring people in, right? People should want to come in because of what they're getting from you, and those are the people that you want to be there. So
Yeah.
good job.
Thank you. I mean, I would even just say, you taking over a practice and owning your own business, I doubt that you're running it identically to how somebody else would do it.
Right.
So there's something to be said about that too. It's like, okay, well, even if you take something over or piggyback off of somebody else's, business or whatever it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
That you don't have to do it identically to the way that somebody else would do it. If you choose to do it differently, you can make it successful in that way too and make it unique.
This is cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this was a really good conversation. I don't want to make it all about business though, because ultimately you are a person and you are my friend. So I have some questions for you that are not business related, but I do want other folks to get to know you better as a person. And also want to give you an opportunity to plug your business. So I got a couple questions for you.
Okay, this is the scary part.
Nothing crazy. What is your favorite self-care ritual?
Oh, yeah, self-care. So I obviously I'm in healthcare, so that's really important to me is, having a good self-care regimen. I work out a few days a week, usually 4 days a week. And actually created a home gym. I turned my garage into a home gym because working out for me is not socializing. So, and I'm with people all day long, right? I'm with a different personality every 15 minutes. So I don't want to go to a gym and start hanging out with people and talking to people that I, mostly don't know. And like I said, the exercise is really about me and my care. So I work out a lot in my home gym. It brings me a lot of peace. Also working on my physical health. Um, I also meditate. Um, I don't know that I'm great at it, but it does start my day off. I don't do it every day. I try to, but I forget. Just being totally honest. But when I wake up and I just come out into my living room and I do like a meditation app that helps me, it changes my day. It always does. I always just have a better day, like a better mindset. And yeah, I think those are two big things. I also get a massage once a month, which is a part of my self-care routine. So
Okay. Yeah, all good things. And it makes sense because you're in the healthcare field.
well,
When you're not working, what do you like to do in your free time?
sleep. Sleep is important. No, I'm a nature person, so a lot of talked about traveling. I love traveling. Within a lot of my travels, there's usually a lot of nature involved.
Uh-huh.
Hiking is really important to me. Um, so going on hikes, working out, being with friends is really important. Um, just kind of having a connection that is not work related
Uh-huh.
with humans, but also I'm a bit of an extroverted introvert, so alone time is really important too. So just being at home, working at my house, on my house, those things are really important for me outside of the
Mhm.
office.
Okay. And who is a black and queer icon or black or queer icon that you admire?
Black and or both.
Black and or.
So the person I think I admire the most is as a black person are the Obamas. I
Okay.
know it's kind of an easy one to go to, but I I've always had a really strong connection to their leadership,
Uh-huh.
um, and kind of their bravery to lead in their blackness, and just kind of the excellence they exude. I really do look up to them. I have a framed photo of Barack on my desk in my office.
Uh-huh.
Since the day that I took over my practice, I put it up because it's just kind of my inspiration to be better in what I do. So I look at it every day.
That's actually really inspiring. I feel like everybody needs somebody to, not even just like emulate, but just like look up to and just be like, okay, they did this amazing thing and I can do something amazing as well.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Last question for you. What's a book, movie, or podcast that's inspired you recently?
Book, movie, or podcast? Um, this is it's a little different. So
Mhm.
I joined this group. It's a chiropractic group, actually. There's a gentleman who it's kind of like a practice management. I had talked about practice management earlier.
Uh-huh.
He reached out to a group of chiropractors and wanted to help us. And so he has a podcast that he sent out to us. And then he actually brought us all into a Zoom call. And I think you and I talked about this maybe a little bit, but I didn't have it started off great. It seemed like he really wanted to just kind of give his advice. He was, a chiropractor for like 40 years. And then it all kind of changed and became that kind of typical male run, white cisgender male run kind of chiropractic practice management. But it actually did really inspire me. I remember leaving that conversation and having a one-on-one conversation with this gentleman about his practice management and how I was absolutely not interested in it. Um, but, but it really motivated me I was like, everything this man is saying and talking about, I'm either already doing or like know how to implement myself. I just need to look within a little bit more instead of always looking outward. again, it's all, like I said, it's always good to ask for help and to lean into people who can give you advice, but also know what you know, right? And and use the training and the experience and the knowledge that you have. And that was just early December, so it had just happened. And that's been a pretty big motivator for me lately. Was kind of starting off with a podcast and then into the Zoom call of just like, I don't need this, right? I already have the tools. I just need to implement them. So yeah, I've been motivated to do that since. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nizer, I think we're done.
Oh my gosh, this was so great, and I really appreciate you letting me tell my story to your millions of fans out there.
I wish.
They're coming. They're coming. I'm so excited for this podcast. So keep doing your thing and keep sharing queer Black stories, because we got many of them.
Yes, many more to come. For people who are listening, where can they find your business? How can they find you if they need to get their back cracked?
Absolutely. Yeah. My business is called Sound Precision Chiropractic. It's located in the East Bay and El Cerrito, not too far from Berkeley. And yeah, you can look us up on Instagram at Sound Precision Chiro. And same thing for Facebook. We also have a TikTok. It's really silly. Please don't look at it. It is really fun though. But yeah, we're on San Pablo Avenue in El Cerrito, and for whomever needs it, reach out.
Okay, cool. Thank you for joining me. I hope people are inspired by your story just as I am. And as far as seeing you next, I'll probably see you at some point in the next couple weeks.
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
All right. Thank you, friend.
Thank you, Jojo. Take care.
You too. Bye. All right, folks, there you have it. The story of a Black and queer business owner, my friend, Dr. Christopher Nizer, a chiropractor. I really want to make sure that we are highlighting the voices of people of color and also anybody who happens to be queer that owns a business. I would like to make this a recurring episode at some point. So if there are other business owners that would like to be featured, please let me know. And I hope you like this episode, and there's more things to come very, very soon. So thank you again for listening. And as always, stay Black, stay queer. And if you are neither, then please always stay unapologetic. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.